So here's the sitch on the ATL box score today. We get into some Braves baseball, and we just talk about the things that, well, we missed when we weren't recording. And then we have Mike Brumagin on from CNN Sports to talk all things NBA, from why the Lakers are shutting down LeBron James to diagnosing some college players' game and how they're going to fit in the NBA. And also, too, we talk more about the Rookie of the Year with our own Ice Tray at the center of that conversation. This is the ATL Box Score. We're Atlanta's newest sports podcast. You're listening to Pro Style Thursday. Hope you enjoy. With starting a new podcast, people ask me all the time, Alex, where do you record your show at? Do you do it at your house? No, I don't do it at my house because of just a lot of different logistical factors. The place that I do it at is actually a place called Spaces, Midtown East. And Spaces is a co-working center where I get my show recorded and I get other work done. Co-working has been one of these new phenomenons in the private business sector that has popped up recently. And Spaces also has another brand called Regis, which is more of a professional brand. Spaces is more for creators like myself. But to tell you more about these special brands in the business world is Mr. Steve Choi.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate those kind words. We absolutely love having you and ATL Box Score as part of our space. It's always great when we see you doing your work. But absolutely, Spaces and the Regis concept, we are both workplace providers here in the Atlanta area, but all around the world. We have over 250 Spaces locations worldwide, plus over 1,500 Regis locations. And what we're really here to do is just provide flexible options for any type of professional, whether you're an independent professional, creative, or if you're a large or small business. So we have several different types of options from small to large, and memberships, part-time, full-time. So definitely come on out and check us out. Go ahead and look at the link on Alex's site and ask for Steve Choi. And if you ever come into one of our locations, let us know that Alex sent you, or ATL Box Score, and we'll go ahead and set you up with a free 5-day test drive.
Yeah, you can't beat that 5-day test drive. In those 5 days, you will know if Spaces or Regis is the right brand for you. And Spaces is all over the place. They're a little bit more limited, but they're in the main areas of the city. The one we are is right in the heart of Midtown, near the Fox Theater. There's one at the Battery. There's going to be one opening up North Point Mall there. And there's also a location in Colony Square. So they are all over the metro area. At just about any major business building in the Atlanta area has a Regis in it. So just Google them. But Spaces and Regis and Steve Choi in particular is your place to do your business. Well, welcome back to a Thursday here at the ATL Box Score. And man, oh man, some stuff just got real here. The Braves, when we last recorded, they were at they didn't even win any games. Now their record is 2-3. So the Braves are on an upswing, and hopefully today, or by the time you listen to this podcast, because it's funny about doing a podcast that you talk about current events. Well, a lot of times those change on the fly, but last time recording, Braves didn't have any win in the 2019 season. Now the Bravos are at 2-3. So again, hopefully we can get another solid win tonight. But hey, you might be listening to this on a Friday or a Saturday or something like that. So hopefully the Braves are probably 4 or 5-3 or 4-3 or around that record. Georgia, unfortunately, has already 6 arrests. We're actually going to talk about that more in the next podcast called Football Friday, which usually, if you haven't noticed what we do with our podcasts, each show, because we try to do this show 3 times a week, each show has a certain name and a certain theme to it, kind of like Pete Carroll's practices when he was coaching at USC. We have Recapping the Weekend, which is about just recapping what happened in sports over the weekend. We have Pro Style Wednesday, or in this case, Thursday. Sometimes life happens and things happen here that we have to push it back. So this is Pro Style Thursday, but we usually try to record release on a Wednesday. But just logistical things happen where we had to push the content back for a day, and now we're here. So we pretty much just talk about the NBA and the Atlanta Braves, and we get a lot of pro talk in on Thursday. And then we have Football Friday, which is a podcast because, hey, football content happens all year round. Sometimes it's slower than others, I'll admit, but you can talk football all year round. And that's what we do on Football Friday. We just talk football no matter what's going on, no matter what the NASCAR race that weekend is, or where we're at in March Madness, or where we're going to be with the NBA Finals and the NBA playoffs. It's all about football on Fridays here at the ATL Box Score. So with that, let's talk some Atlanta Braves, because the Braves finally got some wins. I know the Cubs are pretty terrible right now, but the on-field performance has... This is what, I mean, Philly is what Philly's going to be in this division. Let's just face facts. And right now, they look like they're probably going to be the team that's going to win the division just because of all their talent for right now. And I did say that I'm of the opinion, though, that April baseball matters. Just from a standpoint of momentum and team chemistry, because it doesn't really matter what happens in May, or if you have a slow start, or you're having you're struggling at the beginning of June. Because hopefully you've as a baseball team, you've had your camaraderie together. Because I feel like April is when you have to have camaraderie. Yeah, the wins and the losses probably don't matter in the big scheme of things of trying to make the playoffs, trying to push for a playoff spot, wild card spot, so on and so forth. But if you can have a winning record coming out of the month of April, then you should have a winning season. That's how I look at it. So I feel like just from, because I know there's going to be a lot of people that talk about that, you know what, that this, what happens right now in baseball doesn't really matter. Which I can see why people are saying that, especially from a playoff standpoint. Like, you're not going to win style points to get into the playoffs. in April. But I feel like from a team chemistry standpoint that you need this. And I feel like where the Braves are at right now, we're seeing just how good this team could be. Now, again, the Braves are going to have to be successful with going up against the Phillies. And I'm pulling up their schedule right now because I'm curious to see when they play them next. And they don't play them till June 14th. So that's good news for the Braves that they're not going to play the Phillies for a while. So right now it's a good chance they could probably catch up to them because I'm going to pull up the standings for the NL. Yeah. Stats. Okay. It's kind of, I'm just like, yeah, I'm just kind of looking at my computer and trying to, just trying to do things. I'm probably doing a little too much right now and trying to talk to you guys at the same time. But yeah, that's how I feel about baseball in the month of April. Just that. Yeah, just that you need that momentum. Yeah, the wins losses probably don't really matter as much playoff wise, or to compete or to have a race to a wild card. But I'm a strong believer in that you need those wins to build team chemistry. And right now, the Atlanta Braves in the National League East are sitting at third place. I'm a little surprised about that. Washington's tied with the Braves in the win-loss column. You also have the Marlins. So I'm on ESPN.com. So pretty much the reason why the Braves are in that third place slot is because they started off the year in first place until they actually played some real games. Now, they could catch up with Philly, and the Mets are actually sitting at that, on top of the division right now because they have 5 wins. So I feel like with the Braves' schedule and the standings right now, they could make up for it with the games that with the schedule they play coming up. And I feel like we're seeing how good, right after this, they play the Marlins, so they should win that series. Colorado might be a little tough, but I could see them doing that. Then they have to play New York on April 11th they have to play a 4-game series. So we're going to see how good New York really is in this opinion. But I feel like it was smart also too that the Braves signed Ronald Acuna for as much money as they did, and man, that guy's is rich. He has finally made it, and I like how Freddie Freeman actually showed up to the press conference when they extended his contract, and he won't be a free agent till 2024. So the Braves locked up Ronald Acuna, which is a great move by the Atlanta Braves. And it was good to see Freddie Freeman there to support him at the presser event and the So overall, I feel like where this Braves team is headed, they have a lot of good chemistry together, and especially you have a guy Freddie Freeman showing up to Ronald Acuna's signing ceremony or whatever you want to call it, but the Braves seemed to make didn't really make a big deal about it, but it was a big thing for the media. So right now the Braves are off to a good start here, and I guess we're gonna have to rename this segment because we used to call it Braves Profiles, Players, and Players. So Ronald Acuna was in that segment, and now he's getting paid a ton of money, getting that major league money. So, but it's sad news too, and I didn't know he was 77. Bobby Cox having a stroke. I wondered if he was. I'm just glad it was a stroke and wasn't something else, because I thought it was something else, and I didn't know he was 77. But I mean, the guy is the life of the Braves. I mean, not necessarily the life, but it's like he's one of the guys you think about with the Braves organization. He was the, I like how the Atlanta Journal put it, he was the father in the Braves' best years. And that pretty much sums it up for Bobby Cox. So I hope that he could get better. Pray for Bobby right now, being in the hospital. And it was, I mean, he seemed fine when he said the play ball in the home opener at SunTrust Park. But I have a lot of respect for Bobby. I always liked Bobby Cox. He just had a very gentleman approach, very loyal to his guys, and that was probably the best thing and worst thing about him, that he was so loyal to if you became one of his guys in the clubhouse. So I hope that I hope Bobby Cox can get well, and you hate to hear about a guy having a stroke when he's 77, but a lot of love. It's cool to see all the love and just going out to him, not only from the Braves organization, but from just around the major league. You having ESPN analysts giving him high praise. So this is a guy that the Braves organization absolutely loves, and it just feels like yesterday that he retired. But he's also a guy too. I mean, has his own statue at SunTrust Park, and he's just one of those figureheads right now for. He's definitely on the Mount Rushmore of the Atlanta Braves organization. So hopefully he can get better, and just sad to hear what's going on with him. I thought he passed when I saw things, but I knew it was a stroke. But he's still in the hospital from what reports are coming out right now about him. So hopefully Bobby Cox can overcome this, and I hope that this doesn't have any long-term effects or effects to his speech, because that's usually when strokes happen. If you survive it, your speech gets pretty gets affected. So Well, with that being said, this is the ATL box score, and you're listening to Pro Style Thursday. So if you liked what you heard so far, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. You can find us where all good podcasts are found, like Apple and Google Play and Stitcher, Spotify. So be sure to look us up on social media. We're ATL Box Score on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Got a lot of Twitter followers recently, so be sure to check us out and comment in the comment section if you like what you heard so far. And by the way, I talked about Spaces, all the great things that you can get with being a Spaces member. And if you're looking for an office space, this is a place to be. Steve Choi, who I had on, he always says it's like, one thing I have is a bunch of space, and that's exactly what they have at Spaces and the other parent company, Regis. So if you're in that market, if you're looking for some standalone office, well, right now they have a great deal. Just use promo code Alex when you tour and when you sign up, and you'll get 15% off your purchase if you sign up for a 12-month deal that is with a basic designated desk all the way up to a private office. So just use promo code Alex, and that will help you out in the long run. So with that, we are actually going to bring on to the conversation when it comes to bringing on special guests onto the podcast. We are bringing on Mike Brumagin next to talk about the NBA, and that's usually what we talk about here on a Wednesday or a Thursday. So Mike's going to come on the show and talk a little NBA for us. This is the ATL Box Score podcast. And by the way, too, in case you're curious, I'm not shying away from this. Football Friday, we are going to get into the Georgia arrest because in 33 days, there's been 6 Georgia players arrested this spring. I thought we were beyond this with Kirby Smart. But we're going to get into that in the next podcast, which is Football Friday. So with that, we're going to bring on Mike Brumagin. This is my conversation with Mike Brumagin. Now we just want to bring on to the conversation here at the ATL Box Score, Mr. Mike Brumagin from CNN Sports. And he's just going to be with us the rest of the way to talk all things NBA, what's going on with the league. And Mike, how are you doing today?
Doing okay, man. How you doing?
I'm good. Glad to have you on Pro Style Wednesday, and let's just get right into it because I just want to get your thoughts on the Lakers shutting down LeBron James for the rest of the year.
Well, as well as like numerous other people, am in the camp that they should have done it sooner. But basically just over the weekend, they finally came to their senses. They decided to sit down with him and let him know, like, yo, there's no point in you playing. At that point, there's only 5 games left in the season.
Right.
Kind of pointless to shut him down so late. Coach Luke Walton said, that LeBron wants to play. They said that the medical staff basically said it's not worth it anymore. And they just told him that, it's best to just focus on having a healthy summer. But if you think about it, like going back to Brandon Ingram's injury with the vein thrombosis, the blood clot in his vein in his shoulder, that he started missing games back at the beginning of March 2nd.
Gotcha.
And And that's when I confess that they should have sat LeBron. As soon as they knew or had an idea that Ingram wouldn't be able to make it the rest of the year, and Alonzo was already out injured, they should have just be like, look, our core is pretty much done. You know, like Alonzo's not playing. You know, Brandon Ingram's got a very serious health condition. Let's just have LeBron sit out the rest of the year. Because since then, the Lakers have won 5 games. And that doesn't sound like a lot, especially when you measure it against 11 losses. But considering the teams that they're looking at ahead of them in the draft standings, if they had lost all those games, let's just assume they had lost all those games, then they would be tied for the 6th best position in the lottery. You know, they'd be up there with the Mavericks for 6th in the lottery. That's a huge jump up from where they're at now. Right now, they're looking at being the 11th best odds of winning the lottery, and that's not really good because the 11th best odds, and we'll talk more about the lottery later, but 11th best odds is only a 2% chance of winning. So they really shortchanged their chances of trying to do better in the offseason and in the draft by letting him play.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's interesting. You said that he should have been shut down sooner. But another storyline that's going on in the league right now is the Porzingis rape allegations, and man, that's turned into a federal investigation because it seems like it's a case of she said, his lawyer said type of situation.
Looking up, this whole situation is loaded.
Right, it is.
There's just so much going on here. First of all, one of the things that kind of gets to me, and me being somebody who's injured my knee and had a torn ACL before, she alleges that she was attacked and raped the day after this man tore his ACL. That personally for me is hard to buy into because, one, with an ACL, you're not very mobile. You're not moving about. Your leg is in. You have to keep your leg in an immobilizer, so you can't get around unless you're on crutches or in a wheelchair. So that's the first thing. Second, you're in a lot of pain, and to deal with that pain, you're taking painkillers. There's so that to me makes it seem like really odd that he would do something like that. The timing just seems kind of questionable, but text messages and emails have been obtained, and there were text messages between the two of them. There's a message where he sent to her letting her know that he was drunk, and she had invited herself up, and he had asked her what she was wearing, and she said what she was wearing. So there's clearly a relationship there. They had known each other. They'd interacted with each other. They had each other's numbers and, had correspondence. Does that mean that there was rape? We don't know.
Do you think, though, this is a situation of that this girl is possibly just trying to get something out of this athlete?
It could be. And as Porzingis' lawyer, has stated, they try to turn everything over to the FBI because it feels like everything about it seems like extortion. You look at, she has she has a document that she claims that he signed, that basically says that this is what the document says. It says this agreement, effective February 7th, 2018, acknowledges the fact that an unexpected escalated sexual intercourse due to an inevitable physical attraction on the part of Kristap, misspelled, occurred subsequently, warrants compensation payable towards the woman's sibling college tuition in the amount of $68,000. Mr. Kristap, still misspelled, willingly willingly offered several compensations to the woman, including business investments. The woman ultimately
Wow.
settled with Mr. Kristap's offer of a $68,000 check. So that's what the document that she says he signed says. And then you think about the fact that his name is misspelled, and the signature doesn't, according to his lawyer, the signature doesn't even look like it's his signature. So they believe it to be a forgery.
Right.
And then and then you look at
And this happened over a year ago too, which is one of the things that I feel is a little suspicious, especially in this day and age, because usually stuff like that.
Well,
And let me ask you this:
you
since
can't
you're
really-
go
you
ahead.
can't-
I'm sorry.
you can't really judge off of the timing, because a lot of women in these kind of cases, and we've seen this with the Me Too movement, a lot of women will wait years, sometimes decades, before they come forward out of fear,
Mm-hmm.
because these men are rich, they're powerful, they hold a certain power over the woman, and they also hold the sway of the public,
Right.
public
Right.
opinion. So they, for fear of backlash against them from the public or from whatever, they would refrain from coming out. The difference with her situation is she refrained from coming out, not because of anything like that. She's actually said that she refrained from coming out anytime sooner because she was trying to get the $68,000, which just goes in line with what Kristap's lawyer is talking about with the extortion. Because it escalates to the point where she started reaching out to the New York Knicks organization and emailing their legal team, threatening to sue them if they didn't mediate and ensure that Kristap's made the payment to her.
Gotcha. Yeah, a lot of moving pieces too. Do you feel like if this allegation was going on right now and the guy was healthy and he was playing, do you feel like the Mavericks would play him?
Well, they were made aware of it before the trade was done. So I feel like based on what they were told and what information they were given, they felt confident that this would go away and that this isn't going to be a big deal, or that, based on the facts that they've been presented, that there's no risk of Kristap's going to jail or, anything real major that would affect him playing for the Mavericks could happen. So I don't think that they would have made the deal had they not felt very positive about this situation. And then you look at it, it's kind of one thing that interests me though is so currently there's two different things going on. You got the NYPD started the investigation and they since turned it over to the Special Victims Unit. But then because of the dealings of Porzingis' lawyer, now you got the FBI is involved because they've turned over their evidence to the FBI because they feel like they're being extorted. So you got two different kind of investigations going on. And with the NYPD, sources from the NYPD told ESPN that they believe this woman to be credible. So on the one side you have, an investigation where the officers believe the victim to be credible. And so they're giving a genuine effort to investigating the allegations. Now on the other, you got a lawyer and his client bringing forward evidence and turning it over to the FBI because they feel like they're being extorted.
Right.
Which isn't the kind of thing that you usually have or see in the instance of like a rape. So it's just a really complicated situation, and it's going to be interesting to see how things play out.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, that's just has so many different elements to it. That you really don't know who's telling the truth.
She's an African American woman, and then there's stuff about how she says that when he was beating her, he was calling her a slave.
Whoa.
That's loaded. That is loaded.
Right, absolutely. Moving on though, Russell Westbrook actually
Well, hold on a second.
gotcha.
While we're talking about legal stuff, I hate to go back to the Lakers, but
It always
have you
seems to
heard
come out in these conversations. Stuff about the
have
Lakers.
you heard have you heard about what happened with Lonzo Ball?
No, I haven't.
All right, so of course I'm sure you're familiar. When he first came in as a rookie, his father declared that they were starting their own shoe brand called Big Baller Brand.
Yeah.
Extremely overpriced shoes, bad customer service. Shoes were delivered late. The quality was bad.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all that aside, the whole the majority share of Big Baller Brand is owned by Lonzo because he's the one that fronted the money for it.
Uh-huh.
Well, recently he has filed a lawsuit against LeVar's his father's friend, Allen Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Allen Houston was the managing partner of Big Baller Brand. And what Lonzo's saying is that Allen Houston, in his dealings with Big Baller Brand, stole $1.5 million from his personal and business accounts.
Wow.
So he's suing his dad's longtime friend and former Big Baller Brand manager, Allen Houston.
Wow.
Alan Foster. And then the thing that's crazy with it is when you look at like this dude's history, this dude has a history of being shady. Foster's already spent like 7 years in jail for defrauding investors to the tune of $4 million. So this is a guy who has a track record of fraud and financial criminal dealings.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting offseason for legal battles in the NBA, to say the least. But I want to get to the Russell Westbrook story because you have more details about this than I do. So just explain what happened with that.
So last night, the Oklahoma City Thunder were playing the Los Angeles Lakers. And in recent news, just over the weekend, rapper and philanthropist Nipsey Hussle was murdered outside of his own store in front of his daughter. Horrible, horrible tragedy. And Nipsey is very well connected, had many friends in many different mediums, but he's also very close with a lot of NBA players. Not only do they like his music, but they built relationships, and they actually are legitimately friends. And one of those people with whom he's close with was Los Angeles native Russell Westbrook. And so last night in LA, Russell declared during the pregame that he was going to go for a 2020 game with 20 points, 20 rebounds, 20 assists.
Uh-huh.
And the significance of that is, one of the things that Nipsey is known for is he comes from a gang background. He's part of the Crips. I can't remember the details, but basically, like, he was part of a set that associated themselves with the number 60. And but he turned his life around, made it big in music, invested in himself. He started investing in his community, helping other people with business and things like that, and really become a great philanthropist. And even to the point where he had recently been working on mending relationships between the Crips and the Bloods, rival gang factions. And so,
that's pretty huge right there.
Yeah, so that's the significance of the 2020, because 2020 and 20 added together is 60. So it's a very significant, kind of meaningful number to aspire to in dedication to Nipsey Hussle. And Westbrook did it. It took every minute of the game, even though the game was out of reach. Last couple of minutes, he's still out there hustling to try to get a couple extra rebounds to make the number. But he got the numbers. He got 20 points, 20 rebounds, and 21 assists. And historically, that makes him only the second person to get that type of stat line. The last person to do so is Wilt Chamberlain back in 1968. So it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. Wow. Well, he pulled it off for a good cause then. So that's pretty much like the main headlines going on in the league right now. It seems like, though, and I just want to touch on this just for like a second and move on to your opinions about the playoff standings. But it seems like recently the Warriors have been getting screwed by the refs the past couple of games, having Cousins going out and that last play against Minnesota that they called on KD and other things going on. So I just want to, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, they're still the top seed in the West. Actually, last night they had a game against the Nuggets, who they were tied with for the top spot in the West, at least in record. And they dominated the Nuggets, like from beginning to end. So like they're not at any risk of like falling apart as a team or like really being overtaken, I don't think, as far as playing on the court. But these frustrations with the referees, I think, could definitely come back to bite them, because there are rules in place. If you accumulate so many technical fouls, you start getting suspended, things like that. And then once you get to postseason, that number drops. Like in the regular season, it's I think 15 or 16 technical fouls merits a suspension. And then after that, I think it's like every 2 after that gets you another suspension or something like that. But in the playoffs, it's significantly less. I think it's like every 5 technicals and you get a suspension, something like that. That's why in the championship game against the Cavs back in 2016, it was a big deal that Draymond wound up getting suspended, because he had already accrued enough technicals that when he punched LeBron in the groin, that totaled up enough that he had to be suspended.
Right.
So if they carry over this rapport with the referees going in the playoffs, that could spell some dicey consequences in a future series, perhaps against a Houston Rockets team who took them to 7 games last year. And that's the last thing that they would really want, is to wind up getting in trouble with the referees against a team like Houston, who could, if healthy, beat them. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Definitely the other night against the Timberwolves, they got really screwed by the refs. I wouldn't say they got screwed last night, because they were blowing out their opponent. Mm-hmm. But whether they were winning or losing wasn't really the point. Last night, Kevin Durant did not deserve a second technical to merit him being ejected from the game. He himself even admitted that his first technical was deserved, because he was yelling quite demonstratively at the referee as he was running back down on the court. But as soon as he picked up the first technical, he calmed down and started to approach the referee to talk to him. And that's when the referee gave him the second technical. And that's not really merited. Like, if you can't talk to somebody, shouldn't be penalized just because they don't want to talk to you.
Right. Right. Yeah.
The other night against the Warriors was just horrible officiating. You got Warriors making a comeback in overtime. Game's real close. Kevin Durant comes off a screen, catches the ball, fires off a 3. 3 goes in, whistle blows. He thinks he's getting an and one. It could be a 4-point play. That would give them the lead the three itself tied the game, but then the referee waved it off, said there was no shot, that the foul was before the shot, and they had to take the ball out of bounds. Then the interesting thing is, ensuing play, Steph Curry gets the ball, he makes the three from the corner, and then proceeds to taunt the referee, laughing at him and pointing at him as he runs down the court. And then, of course, in the post game, they they were saying all kinds of things about the ref. They were calling him out by name. So, of course, they all got fined for it. But, yeah, I don't think it's really going to affect their playoff positioning or affect their odds of winning the whole thing in the playoffs. It just not.
What about the Magic? Do you feel like, because they have to play New York, Atlanta, Boston, their next 3 games, do you feel like the Heat and the Magic could possibly trade places?
I think this could go a number of ways. I know a lot of people, if you're watching TV, watch NBA TV or ESPN, like I've seen a lot of people saying that they think the Nets are going to stay in the playoffs. But I could see the Nets potentially dropping out because they're only ahead, they're only ahead by, 1 win ahead of the Magic. That's not a lot. So, and you look at they got 4 games remaining, and all 4 of their games that are remaining are against other playoff-bound teams. They got a game against the Raptors, who are second in the East. They got a game against the Bucks, who are first in the East. And those 2 teams aren't shutting it down yet because they're both fighting for – the Raptors are still, mathematically in the running for the top seed in the East. The Bucks need to win 1 more game to get to secure the top seed. So they're both trying to win. So, you got 2 games against the top guys in the East. And then you got a game against Indiana, who's the 5th seed in the East. They're scrappy. And then Miami, who's trying to make sure that they make the playoffs. So all these teams want and need to win for different reasons. I don't think that's an easy schedule. It actually ranks as the second strongest strength of schedule remaining in the league. So depending on how that 4-game stretch plays out, they could wind up seeing themselves on the outside looking in, and the Magic could jump in over the Nets. But then you look at the Magic schedule, 3 of the teams they play are among the worst in the league: the Knicks, the Hawks, and the Hornets. They got the Celtics, and not that that's a guaranteed loss because the Celtics are up and down. They've been up and down all year. So they very easily could win all 4 of those games, or they could win 3 and only lose 1. And of these teams that are vying for the last spot in the playoffs, the Magic are playing the best. They won 7 of their last 10. So I think that the Magic will probably wind up in the playoffs. I'm not sure if it's going to be the Nets that fall out. It could be the Heat that fall out because they got Boston. They got a scrappy Minnesota team they got to play. They got Toronto, Philadelphia, and the Nets. So they got a very hard schedule themselves. But then you look at the Pistons. The Pistons got, I wouldn't say a hard schedule per se, but they got more games. They got a 5-game stretch they got to play, and they're very wishy-washy. They've only won 5 of their last 10.
Yeah.
So it's anybody's guess, but if I were going to make my pick, I would go with I'd probably take Brooklyn on the outside looking in, with Miami, Orlando, and Detroit making it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I want to talk to you and get your opinions about the mock draft, the players that are coming out of college that are going to impact the draft this year, because we talked a lot about in the last conversation about draft selection, and that the Hawks are in a good position when the lottery comes out. But recently Duke just exited the NCAA tournament. There hasn't to my knowledge, unless there's been breaking news about some of those Duke kids like Zion Williams, RJ Barrett coming out in the draft. So I just want to get your thoughts about because right now it looks like Zion Williams is going to be the number one player taken. RJ Barrett's there in third. You have John Moran in second. You also have Cam Reddish. And tell me.
But yeah, so he's got good size for a guard, which is what you want, and that's part of why I really want RJ Barrett. RJ's 6'7", so if he's available, he's definitely somebody that the Hawks should give consideration to if they're not able to move up or if they don't wind up lucking their way into the top three. But you'd need to talk to somebody who's more familiar with Texas Tech and their games, who's seen more of him in action. I've seen very little. I've just seen some highlights. But based on that, I would say he'd be a pretty solid pick. But why settle for him when you could try to aim for better, right?
Right. Absolutely. Because Duke, because you said yesterday that you want the Hawks to at least get one of the Duke kids. That it seems like
I would say
RJ Barrett is probably the most reasonable choice. Explain to us,
unless we get lucky and win the lottery.
Right. But explain why you think RJ should be an Atlanta Hawk.
Well, first of all, I feel like, all right, and you look at the mocks, a lot of people are picking him to be third. And I think that's a very reasonable, if everything falls the way it is, and the way things are right now, we're looking at Atlanta winding up with, sorry,
it's fine.
Still coughing from like a week ago.
Right.
It's now Atlanta's projecting to have the fifth best odds of winning the lottery. The Mavericks, who we own the pick for, if they're outside the top five, are projecting to be the seventh pick. So if RJ falls to 3, if we're willing to trade up, I think that a combination of the 5 and the 7 picks would be enough ammunition by itself to be able to trade up to 3 to try to take RJ if he's still available at the 3. This draft isn't super deep. It's just it's fairly top heavy. You're looking at like the top 12 or so players are looking to be like solid NBA players. And to me, that's why you don't really want to. What's the point of keeping your picks wherever they are if they're just gonna, be players who project to be like backups or maybe a starter but not an all-star? If you can trade up and get someone who's all-star caliber player, potentially all NBA type player, you do that. You trade up. Why keep that pick? So to me, if we're looking at the option of having Jarrett Culver and DeAndre Hunter, just looking at the mocks and where people are projected to go versus trading up and potentially having RJ Barrett, I'd rather take RJ because he's much more proven. He's proven himself much more in college. You look at the accolades he's been accumulating: ACC Player of the Year, tournament Player of the Year. He's the player of the tournament. This kid is like getting all the attention's been going to Zion because of his freakish athleticism, but RJ's been their leading scorer the whole season. He was their leading scorer in the tournament, and he's the one who's getting all the awards. So it's like this kid is not a slouch, and he's got pedigree. He's got a really good godfather. RJ Barrett's godfather is Hall of Fame player Steve Nash.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Steve
That's an
Nash is
interesting
his
connection.
godfather.
Wow. So you would rather take RJ Barrett over Zion Williams, even if they got the number 1 pick?
If they got the number 1 pick, I think you take Zion. Even though I would personally rather have on my team, I'd rather have RJ. I feel like Zion's a better asset, so you could keep him and try to develop him, or if you want, you could trade him and get a lot for him. So he's the kind of person that a lot of people covet, and you could get a lot of you could demand a lot for him if you wanted to trade him.
Mm-hmm.
So and if they lucked up and they got the number 1 pick in the lottery, they could trade down. If they want RJ, they could trade down. Be like, look, we don't need Zion. We'll trade down. Give us the 3, and add like 1 or 2 future picks, and then take more picks. Just to move down 2 slots because people want Zion that bad. So to me, if you luck up and you get in a position to get Zion, you take him because you can leverage him for other things that could be greater. But the player I'd rather have on my team, if I was Travis Schlenk from the Hawks, I'd rather have, if it was me, Michael Brumagin, I'd rather have RJ. I feel like skill-wise, he's more NBA ready.
Mm-hmm.
Zion is an amazing athlete, but he's super raw. Like as far as skills go, he's super raw. He still needs to work on his jump shot. He still needs to work on defensive footwork. Like he's a good defensive player, but a lot of it's just athleticism, just him, tracking down balls and getting weak side blocks and things like that. Like he needs to work on becoming a better on-ball defender. He needs to work on developing a post game, like actual post moves.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's lacking when it comes to a lot of actual fundamental skills. But he's just a phenomenal monster, like a freaking 6'7", 272 pounds. Like this dude is huge, and
Right.
he's got like a 45-inch vertical.
Right.
You imagine if he lost 30 pounds, how much higher he might be able to jump?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. And you also,
his
I think we talked about
head
this.
might be at the top of the back.
Right. I think we talked about this offline, but you said that it's like, imagine Zion Williams being in tip-top shape and losing that weight, because you said it's like he's performing at a level where he's not totally there I mean, not from a from a nutrition standpoint, there's some weight he needs to lose, but you were saying it's like, look how he could be as a basketball player if he lost all that weight.
Yeah, I think the best comparison is probably like Charles Barkley. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you look at him, he's phenomenal talent, very athletic, but he was very much out of shape his whole career. And it's like, if he can learn a lesson from LeBron James, like as soon as he signs his contract with whatever shoe company he gets with it, as soon as he gets some money in his pocket, he needs to get a nutritionist, have like a at-home personal chef to be making sure he's eating healthy, and he needs to get a day-to-day personal trainer to help him, work on getting rid of that baby fat, trim down, and get in a nice, sleek physique. Trim a good 20. He doesn't need to be 270. At his size, and he shouldn't be more than like 240. And even that is kind of on the husky side. If he gets under that, he's going to be like 3% body fat.
Right.
But better that than where he's at right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, going back to what's going on in the league right now, the Rookie of the Year conversation has been heating up, because it's pretty much been Luka Doncic's award to lose, because since he had such a hot start. But since the All-Star break, Ice Tray here in Atlanta has been has a lot of the headlines have been shifting towards him. You're still a big Luka Doncic fan, but at the same time, like I heard something interesting going on that ESPN was talking about on the Jumper, was that it's like one of the guys brought up the fact that usually in this for this award or for guys that have these foreign names, that they don't usually get a lot of favor because they're not used to those type of guys winning those type of awards or having this much impact on the league. I just want to know what's your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I heard about that idea, and there's some credibility to it. The idea that there's some kind of xenophobia, when it comes to considering foreign players for awards, and I've heard it even be suggested that Harden might get better consideration for the MVP over Giannis because because his name sounds weird. Giannis Antetokounmpo. It's a mouthful.
Right.
A lot of people reading the card might not even know how to pronounce it. But yeah, I think there's a certain amount of credibility to that. But
yeah.
When you start getting into things like that, like, it can go both ways. I think about it, like, because even though his name is weird and he's foreign, well, he's also white, and that there's a certain amount of the populace who root for him and cheer for him just because like he looks like them. He's like the white savior, I guess you could say. It's the great white hype, to borrow from boxing history. You can make arguments either way when it comes to, like how these guys might be judged based on, different prejudices. It could go against Luka because he's foreign, but it could go for him because he's white. It's all over the map. So to me, the best way to really judge it is to look at the breadth of what they've accomplished on the court. And that's why I still lean towards Luka, because for the whole season, he has played better. Not just since the All-Star break. And even when you look at it, since the All-Star break, he's improved his numbers.
Mm-hmm.
His season average is 21 points a game, 5.9 assists, 7.6 rebounds a game. But since the All-Star break, he's upped it to 22.5 points a game, 7 assists, and 9.3 rebounds. So he's been playing even better in the latter part of this. Just not as good as Trae Young, particularly when it comes to scoring and assists in the latter part of the year. But to me, you got to look at the full season. And that's where I feel like he deserves it.
Right.
I'm not going to, if we wind up with co-MVPs, I wouldn't be upset about that. I think it's going to be difficult. Like, they can't just up and decide, hey, let's just give it to both guys. Because the way it works is you have a ballot, you get like 5 positions, and you fill names in base, like, who do I think is first, who I think is second. And then there are allotted points based on where they were voted. So, like 5 points for first, 4 for second, and so on. And then after all 100 people vote, they add up all the points, and then whoever finished with the most wins the award. They're first. So basically, after going through all of that for 100 voters, you would need for them to wind up being tied in points to get co-MVPs. And that's just, the odds of that are very small. It's only happened twice in the past 30 years.
Right. And to Luka Doncic, I mean, it's getting close from a stat. If you look at it from a stats game, but still, Luka Doncic's numbers is still better than Trae Young's.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I think that one thing that might help sway things for Trae is that Luka's missed the last 2 games with a thigh injury, and there's, the Mavericks only have a small handful of games left. They got 1, 2, 3. They got 5 games left on the season, and they still haven't announced, if or when he's going to be able to come back from his injury. If he were to miss the remaining 5 games of the season, or if they decide, hey, it's not worth the risk, it may not be a serious injury now, but we don't want to risk making it worse, so we'll just sit him out the rest of the year. Well, that's a whole stretch of 7 potential games where we get to see Trae Young in action doing amazing things.
Right.
And we're not seeing Luka do anything. And I think that could, because their recency bias is a real thing, and I think that could sway people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if Doncic sits out and Trae Young averages 20, 30 points a game, do you think that would get him over the hump, or do you still feel like it's still Luka's to lose?
I think it depends on what else Trae does in those games. It can't just be about scoring. It's got to be assists. It's got to be, his assists got to be high. He's got to get some rebounds, and he needs to play some defense. He's been abysmal defensively pretty much all year. So if he can show himself to actually be able to buckle down and take on the challenge of playing defense and try to be decent, at least average, that could help his case. Like, hey, look, I'm not just all flash. I can actually, do other things. But I feel like he's got to show himself to be the complete package, And the only reason why I think that might help him is just because, if Luke is sitting out, we have nothing to compare it to. Mm-hmm. It's just him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty much what, since that injury, this is pretty much what the Hawks are competing for right now. Like, this is the only silver lining for their season. And I don't know if it's...
You need to be careful.
Right.
And careful not to win. They got 4 games left, and they only sit three losses ahead of Memphis from falling back to the 6th spot in the lottery. And it's fun watching them win, but is it worth it? Is it worth it? Like, you think about the future of the franchise, you're thinking about the potential of what winning the lottery or having a chance at winning the lottery could mean. Is it worth it to risk winning those games? I don't think so, but they're out there winning anyway. And they had no reason to win that game against Milwaukee. They had no reason to really be trying to compete. And it's fun watching them do it, and it's fun watching Trae, hit 2 crucial shots to take the lead and then retake the lead to win the game. But why?
It's a double-edged sword.
They should be worried more about trying, at this point in the season, they should be worried more about trying to ensure they get, as good of a draft positioning as they can. And the thing is like, you don't have to do that, and this falls on the coaching, I guess. And I don't want to say he's doing a bad job as a coach, but I feel like if your team's in a position where you need to be trying, I guess, to tank, I hate to use that phrase, but if you're in a position where you need to be trying to lose so that you can improve your chances in the draft lottery, all you got to do is change the way you do your lineups. Okay, so we're going to play our guys hardcore for like the first 3 quarters, but then in the 4th, instead of having Trae close out the game, we're going to play him at the beginning of the 4th and then sit him out the rest of the 4th.
Right, we're going to play our bench.
Right. So you have no reason to win. So, let them play and be competitive and show what they've got for the first 3 quarters, and then who cares about the 4th? Because we don't need the wins. We need better draft picks.
So kind of you're pretty much giving the advice of that you should pretty much treat every game like a preseason game from here on out.
Yeah, like a win doesn't matter. You want to use your first few quarters to let your guys be competitive and continue to develop. But you actually don't want to win. Like, wins don't help you.
Right.
So
Right. You're just giving the Hawks organization advice all over the place today, man.
Hey, man. If only they could hear it and act on it, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Hopefully we can help jockey you to be a position so you could be like an advisor to the Hawks.
Oh, I would love that. That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome. We need to get you out of here because I know your daughter is calling your attention. She has some lungs on her, so I could tell she's probably going to be a future public speaker doing something. So where can we reach you at on social media?
At Brumagin on Twitter.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mike, for being on the show.
No problem, man. Take care.
All right. Well, this is the end of our show for you guys, and before we get you out of here, we just have to rectify some things in case you're confused. We recorded the conversation with Mike yesterday. If you're listening to this, you're probably listening on a Thursday or a Friday. Well, with that being said, and this is the fun thing about doing a podcast that is on current events, that in the sports universe that we talk about, things can move very quickly and faster than you realize because we're all pre-recorded here. We don't have a live show yet, but just to clarify things, with our conversation with Mike, since we recorded it yesterday, Luka was out, and you didn't really know the timetable where he was going to come back. I mean, we could speculate and everything like that. But it was funny. I explained to Mike just because that it's like we're going to release the podcast tomorrow. Well, then he sent me a text of an article that's saying, and I think it was from, I have the article right here. Okay. Yeah, the article was from NBA.com, and it was saying that Luka was going to play against Minnesota, and they played Minnesota last night. And just to give you guys what happened with Minnesota when he played against that game, the Mavs overall, they lost 110 to 108. But Luka had 27 points. He was from field goal range. He had 52.4%, and in 3 points, he was 3-point percentage. He was 25%. So 27 points. That was a decent game. So especially that your field goal percentage is in the 50% range. Not spectacular, but I mean, it was decent. Well, then the Hawks didn't listen to Mike, obviously, because we didn't really release this podcast yesterday, which they probably should. Because the Hawks last night played the 76ers, which is a decent team, and they beat the 76ers 130 to 122. And Trae Young went off with 33 points. So I thought it was kind of ironic. I talked that it's like, what if Trae Young has between like 20 and 30 points a game? Would he still be in that MVP race? So from what happened last night, yeah, the win kind of hurts where you're going to draft, and since you're in a rebuilding mode, I mean, I like the competitiveness, and I like that they're winning, I mean, personally, but how is that going to help you with your franchise down the road in the future? Hopefully this doesn't hurt the team in the long run, but they didn't take Mike's advice, which was to treat all these games like a preseason game. Play your starters, then sit them all by the fourth quarter. And apparently, since that game was, since the score was really close, they played the whole game. And Trae Young, Ice Trae, went off. And so he is still in the thick of things when it comes to this Rookie of the Year discussion. And it kind of justifies now that the Hawks made a good move for trading him. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but the end of the Hawks season for me, the future looks bright for the Hawks. Now, hopefully they don't screw anything up in the draft or in the thing, but right now, where the Hawks are going, where they projected to go, it looks pretty bright right now. So you should be feeling pretty optimistic on where your team's going. You got an attractive new stadium. The city itself is starting to be very attractive. So I see nothing but good things coming from the Hawks. Maybe they're going to struggle a little bit more last year, and they might not make the playoffs, but for another year in a row. But I feel like the Hawks are in good position right now. But yes, that's our show. We just want to thank Mike Brumagin for coming on and giving his thoughts and opinions and expertise on the NBA. And yeah, we'll hear. What always? Oh my gosh. I'm good with like one-on-one interaction. I'm not really good at this, like me just speaking into the mic. This is where introverted people just can just dominate, because I'm in a room by myself right now. But anyways, I just want to thank you guys for listening to the ATL Box Score today. Hopefully we got you through traffic or yard work, since it's spring. Hopefully the pollen hasn't ate you up like it's Claritin has really helped me out through this allergy season. I'm just going to put it like that, and hopefully it's not been too bad for you. But just thank you guys for checking us out. Thank you guys for listening. Stay tuned for Football Friday. Like, subscribe, comment, especially want to get your thoughts, guys, on what you think of the Rookie of the Year race that's going on right now between Luka and our Ice Trae. And just tell me what you think about that. Would you take RJ Barrett over Zion Williams if the Hawks got the dream draft pick? And what do you think of LeBron getting shut down and the and all those things we talked about with Mike or the Atlanta Braves? God bless Bobby Cox, and hopefully he gets through this. But we'll be hopefully you'll be checking us out in the next podcast. Hopefully we earned your listenership, and like, subscribe, comment. Also check ATL Box Score out on social media. The most active of those accounts is our Twitter account. So we do that lately. That's where you can get all the updated shows too, if you're not subscribed. But subscribe, guys, because if you enjoy hanging out with me, I'll definitely I definitely enjoy hanging out with you guys. So yeah, just like, subscribe, comment, and hopefully you'll hear me in the next podcast. Till then, we're almost at 50 episodes, so episode 48 is out.